The direct translation of our museum is the house of tools and the thoughts of the worker. Not only is it a museum of tools, Paul Feller saw this museum as being a center for workmen to come and see their tools in a different way. But it's also today a place for people that don't know the tools at all to come, and they can see not only tools, but the past, our culture, and the way we lived and the way that we worked. Welcome to the Maison de Lucia de la Pensee Ouvriere, this magnificent building that dates from the Renaissance era. We are pretty sure that part of this building, the part that's right behind you where we enter into the museum, dates to the end of the 15th century. In 1524, there was a very large fire and everything was destroyed. It took 3 days to put this fire out. So they ended up having to completely destroy everything and rebuild everything. We have the first floor in brick and stone. It's a stone called calcaire and also brick. And this form of style is called damier champenois, or champagne checkerboard. It's very specific to this area. It was constructed in the 1560s by Jean de Monroy, who was the last private owner of this building. On the second, it's pan de bois. You can see it on this side. It's also covered with these beautiful wood, which is called essinte. That's just a way of protecting the pan de bois from bad weather, and that way it's protected. If it gets too wet, it's not going to crumble. Paul Feller, who is the founder of the collection, what he really wanted to do was work with people who are workmen, the people that are not greatly educated at school but are working with traditional crafts. And it's there he started to really realize that the world was changing and things were starting to become more industrialized and mechanical. And he saw that we were starting to lose our traditional ways. So at that point he started to collect tools, and not only tools but books. He just started collecting, and then after 20 years he really didn't know what to do with them. It was in the 60s, the end of the 60s, he heard people talking about the compagnons, and he went to them and said, I have this collection, I want to do this project. When the museum opened in 1974, there was only a few displays on the front and on the first floor. It never stopped growing. Now we have 10,000 tools, and we have what we call the Centre de Ressources, the Resource Center, which is a library that has 33,000 books. Basket weaving is something that was very, very huge in this area. Everything that you imagine today that you have a plastic bag for, 100 years ago it was in a basket. They were omnipresent, they were everywhere. In the 19th century, which was the high point of basket making, there were 40,000 people in France making baskets. Today there's only 150. Did you ever think about how they made the holes in the legs of the chairs before they had electric drills? Well, what they did was, the chair maker, he's got his apron that's made out of leather. So then he's going to take this round piece of wood with the hole, there's 9 holes in it. That's called a conscience. So he's going to tie that around his body, and then we're going to put the hand drill inside one of the holes. And then what he's going to do is he's going to use his own weight to turn it into the hole like this. And that's going to drill the hole. And so you can imagine he had to be very strong, very big to be able to do that kind of work all day. Madame Judith Cowan, who was the only woman carpenter of her age. This photo was taken in 1882. You can see in her hand she's holding a tweeble. It's a very interesting tool, actually. On one side it's very sharp and flat, and it's used to cut wood fibers. And on the other side, it's a little bit rounded, and that's for digging out, for making a mortise, for fitting wood together. Behind us we have this gorgeous saw. It's called a long saw, actually. And if you want to look on the other wall, behind you, you can see how to use it. So in fact, it's for cutting the very long pieces of wood into smaller pieces. You have the master on top, and you have the apprentice on the bottom, who has to take all of the cuttings. The tools that we see in these two displays are very important. We're talking about a time when people made their own tools. Not only would they use them all of their lives, but then they would pass them on to their children. So not only are they beautifully made, but they're kind of a representation of themselves, their own style and designs. Paul Feller was living here, and he was preparing the tools to go into the museum. So he was here when the museum was opened, and he was here just until the year before he died. He died in 1979 in the town of Lille. But we continue his mission, which is the transmission of information from the older generation to the next generation.